we're just not getting a break. I mean, with regards to the Bitcoin price, we surely are, but with regards to all the news, it really seems like we're in the craziest spot that at least I have ever been in. Take a look, for example, at this article. Europe must reduce its dependence on the United States, Macron says on his flight back from China. But we've also got the SEC trying to take even more time, not particularly in the Ripple versus SEC lawsuit, but it's actually a little bit more particular. It is in a FOIA request that Ashley Prosper filed a little while ago. Also, the infamous Sushiswap got hacked, and we've got ourselves a little bit more interesting news on this hyper-Bitcoinization. Anyway, if you guys have not done it yet, let's try to press that like button like crazy to get to like, I don't know, 589 likes. Let's try it out. All right, we have been doing pretty amazing on those likes for the last couple of weeks. And I will also respond to every question in the comment section. Every single comment that's real, not a bot, will get a heart. Just know I read everything, all right? That's it. Getting into our story, the most important in the cover right now is indeed that we have ourselves some very important dates coming up. And I know a couple of you guys watching these videos are not the biggest fans of these announcements of dates. I know. But in my opinion, it's a very important event, and it is the US inflation rate. So I'd say we have multiple important announcements throughout the week, starting at Wednesday the 12th with our inflation rate numbers. And of course, a little bit later, we also have the FOMC minutes. I think I'll be doing a video or maybe a live stream as these inflation numbers come out, and probably either a video or another live stream around the FOMC minutes, as usually, again, almost always, there's a lot of price action around this time. And again, guys, you have to understand Bitcoin has been stagnant for way too long. It's been getting rejected at roughly 28 point something thousand dollars. But right now we are all eyeing for a breakout. Again, whether or not it's going to be towards the upside or the downside still is yet to be seen. But we're all expecting Bitcoin to make a major break towards either direction soon. And again, the more you zoom out, the more crazy patterns might showcase. But the one thing that becomes apparent quite quickly is that it's been a ridiculously long time since Bitcoin saw these crazy heights. I mean, take a look at this. It's actually been 511 days since Bitcoin saw its all-time high. And it's actually also been over 300 days since Bitcoin beat these current prices. Again, talking about prices from the last week's, about 2 or so 3 weeks, depending on the exact price. There have been many analysts who say, okay, we're going to actually see a massive move towards the downside, as they are particularly watching for this 200 weekly moving average. And I'd say that the consensus around the market, I'd say the majority of people have said this. Depending on what Bitcoin breaks right now, which could happen within a couple of days, it's going to be the deciding factor for whether or not we're in a bull or a bear market. Let me explain. The moment that Bitcoin crosses this major resistance, which has been like hurtling at for a ridiculously long amount of time, probably bulls will have the upper hand and take over. But the moment we get a massive rejection and again break towards the downside, a good chance we're going to get back towards the 200 weekly moving average, where again we'll have a slight choice at this psychological barrier of around $25,000. But the moment, the moment that we break below the 200 weekly moving average, that would be at roughly $25,000. Yeah, things were just not looking that good then. Another one thing that's pretty interesting to note is this: breaking dollar hegemony. BRICS nations are leading the world to hyper-Bitcoinization. How the emergence of BRICS as an alternative to the US dollar's global dominance will usher in worldwide Bitcoin adoption, together with this article right here of Europe mustn't reduce its dependence on the United States, Macron says on his flight back from China. I don't know. In my opinion, it just seems as if a lot of this money indeed is flowing out of the United States, out of the US dollar, all into cryptocurrencies. And I personally think that even if we'd say, no, all these US banks are going to remain the center of the world still, just for fun, just quickly watch this video to understand just how much of that could actually run over the XRP ledger at some point.
Activity is growing more and more outside the United States, and it's because you have this confusion in the United States. So we're now processing billions of dollars of transactions every quarter, and well over half of our total transaction volume, because we do have a fiat and XRP-enabled product called on-demand liquidity. Over half of all of our transactions go through XRP now. That has grown. And so, again, we're continuing to sign more contracts, more customers, and then the contracts and customers we have grown, partly because we opened more corridors, more currency pairs. And so there's kind of a nice series of building a positive, virtuous cycle that helps grow the business.
Pretty cool if you start thinking about it. Anyway, let us further discuss exactly what's going on here. The SEC is reviewing its communication with JPMorgan about Ripple. Now, hopefully, you guys remember the start of this, which was about a year ago somewhere, as Ashley Prosper. She basically filed a Freedom of Information Act request, demanding communications between the SEC and JPMorgan involving Ripple. Apparently, she has updated the XRP community about the progress, and that comes along the lines of, based on our, again, this is from the SEC's, initial review of the record, it appears that a large portion of the records will require that we engage in the CT substantiation process, which involves records for which confidential treatment was requested at the time of their submission. An excerpt of the email read. The SEC added that it will require an additional 60 days to review them in order to engage in this type of consultation. So again, it's already taken a couple months to actually get as far as, okay, we have some communication. They want to add another little bit of time to, or actually that might have been a little while ago, that they wanted to add some time to research them. And now because they have to be researched a certain way, they want to add another 2 months. And to me, this basically seems like we have exactly what you're looking for. We can give it to you right now, but let us think of every single reason in the book to make this as hard on you as possible. Because the SEC likes to work that way, guys. We know it. Now, to be a little bit more particular, she filed it all the way back in August of 2022, seeking disclosure of any communications between the SEC and JPMorgan about Ripple. And like several XRP community members, Prosper alleges that some private companies influenced the SEC's decision to go after Ripple in December of 2020, and Prosper filed the FOIA request because he believes the ongoing Ripple lawsuit started with communications between JPMorgan and the SEC. However, all efforts to have the SEC release the documents have yielded no positive results. In March, Prosper notified members of the XRP community that the SEC postponed the release until the end of March. Now it's been the end of March, and they want to continue this delay for how long? Indeed, guys, another 60 days. But it's the story of our lives at this point. I'd also like to state that, this is very annoying. There we go. The date surrounding when this entire ordeal, this lawsuit will be over, it keeps changing. And guys, understand this right here, right? Please understand this quite carefully. I am not a lawyer, all right? All I'm doing is looking at these different guys in the community like John Deeden, etc., and seeing exactly what they say as they have the knowledge for all this stuff. All I can at the end of the day do is reflect all their thoughts back to you. And for example, right here, this guy, Ashley, again, is explaining his thoughts as to when this might end. Then he's explaining some different reasonings as to why these different dates do make a lot of sense. And I can never guarantee, and I'm also not the guy to say, it's certainly going to end that day. What we did a little while ago, and why I keep praising this April 18th, is not because I'm certain it's going to be over, because I don't know. All I'm doing is giving you guys these dates that have higher certainty, or what all these lawyers are pointing towards, and reflecting that back. All we're doing here, guys, at the end of the day, is making sure we don't miss out on a crazy amount of money by not being properly prepared. I'd rather that I make videos here every single day over preparing you guys for things that never happen than not making a video the day it matters the most. And that's honestly the one thing out there that concerns me the most. Today, I know again that some people will be out there thinking, why is this guy putting up another date? Because again, we have April 12th, this very important inflation day date. But I just know from the bottom of my heart that I'd rather some of you guys be informed knowing that massive volatility might be inbound that day than not warn everybody. And the same thing applies to the Ripple versus SEC lawsuit. You'd rather know all the most crucial dates, because what if it just so happens that that day she indeed rules, and it was, again, probability-wise, just a very high probability. Can she rule any single day? Yes, she can. Yes, she can. He's basically explaining a 6-month list clock, but again, what he's explaining also is that we don't even know when this 6-month clock would basically start running. There are a multitude of different days that it could be at, but honestly, if you really start sitting down for it and start thinking about it, you should start sweating a little bit, guys. I'm serious about this, 100% serious. You have to understand for a little second that the opportunity to buy cheap XRP is honestly pretty soon probably over if this lawsuit ends up being done. And also, to me, it's sometimes crazy that what we've covered primarily for XRP over the last 2.5 years is this lawsuit. And all of a sudden, we used to have to talk and focus on all this utility again. Probably at all of a sudden, next XRP price of $3 or $5. Who knows exactly where the price is going to go. Also, of course, in the back of my head, I sometimes think about what would happen if they end up losing. I like to refer back to the video which you saw Brad Garlinghouse, the CEO of Ripple, speaking just now, where at the end of the day, it does not matter that much as Ripple will survive, everything will be fine. I think it's mostly just the upside in case they win, and if they lose, what will be that loss, right? What I mean with that is I think the worst loss that they will get, if any, is that XRP sales before 2018 or so were securities. Okay, who cares? Fine. Ripple pay a fine and everything is all good and over. But I honestly do believe that the XRP that you and I transfer between each other and so forth and so on are going to be ruled as non-securities, and that's the most important piece. I couldn't fathom a world where this judge, who's been so critical, logical, etc. over the past couple of years, all of a sudden is going to make a 180 shift, not recognize the fact that 75, again, let me remind you guys, 75,000 people, and probably a lot more just on YouTube, etc., that have not signed, but 75,000 people are watching this case with their money on the line because they believed in something. Now, the SEC states, well, you shouldn't have believed in that. But again, all of us have come together, 75,000 people there, to say, well, they didn't properly state that, and we don't think we were misled. The SEC is in the wrong here. She's never had that before. She knows the importance, which is still why I keep reminding you guys. I think Ripple will win this. Not a legal opinion, just my thoughts as a random guy that reads on everything. I should say reads up on everything. But yeah, to make sure we end off on a even worse note, I guess, because why not? Sushiswap also got hacked, which was pretty crazy news. The head chef says revoke all chains. It's only affecting the people that got or that used Sushiswap in the last 3 or 4 days. I already put a post about this over on Twitter. I retweeted this from Peak Forge that said breaking Sushiswap has been hacked. All users that used the DEX in the last 4 days have been affected, or rather can be affected. This OXNGMI was the guy that posted it on Twitter, one of the first guys I saw. And there's also a link here to check if your address or one of your addresses has been affected. But yeah, basically a lot of people approved a bad contract. Apparently about 190 people on Ethereum, about 2,000 people on Arbitrum. And there's also a list of contracts across all chains that should be revoked to make sure you still can get your money stolen. Because you have to understand, sometimes in this crypto space, even though it didn't happen today, they still might have access to take your money in the future. So whenever you can, revoke permissions on MetaMask if you don't know what it's about or you don't need it. Anyway, that's not so good news. But if you guys enjoyed this video, make sure that you press that like button. Obviously, I'll be back tomorrow with yet another crypto update. So I also recommend you guys to the fullest to make sure you are subscribed, because again, what if the Ripple lawsuit ends tomorrow? You guys want to be notified, right? That's what I always keep telling everybody. But yeah, things are about to get pretty crazy for crypto as a whole. Right now, we're on the verge of something bigger happening, like I talked about yesterday. It's not happened, no. But again, soon enough it will. And rather be over-prepared than under-prepared, right? Be on the lookout. And you guys know, I'm rooting for you. I'm rooting for you guys to make a crazy freaking ton of money in crypto and make some really good decisions, because I personally think the bull market is near.